Hello everyone. So here we begin the final part of chapter number 8 from Modern History, Bipin Chandra. The chapter name is Economic Impact of the British Rule, and we will be starting with the topic Poverty and Famines. So here goes the topic. A major characteristic of British rule in India and the net result of British economic policies was the prevalence of extreme poverty among its people. While historians disagree on the question whether India was getting poorer or not, under British rule there is no disagreement on the fact that throughout the period of British rule, most Indians always lived on the verge of starvation. As the time passed, they found it more and more difficult to find employment or to make a living. British economic exploitation, the decay of indigenous industries, and the failure of modern industries to replace them, high taxation, the drain of wealth to Britain, and a backward agrarian structure leading to the stagnation of agriculture and the exploitation of poor peasants by the zamindars, landlords, princes, moneylenders, merchants, and the state gradually reduced the Indian people to extreme poverty and prevented them from progressing. India's colonial economy stagnated at low economic level. The poverty of the people found its culmination in a series of famines which ravaged all parts of India in the second half of 19th century. The first of these famines occurs in western UP in 1860 to 61 and cost over 2 lakhs of lives. In 1865 and 6, a famine engulfed Orissa, Bengal, Bihar, Madras and took toll of nearly 20 lakh lives. Odisha alone losing 10 lakh people, more than 14 lakh person died in the famine of 1868 to 70 in western UP, Bombay and the Punjab. Many states in Rajputana, another affected area, lost one-fourth to one-third of their population. Perhaps the worst famine in the Indian history till then occurred in 1876 to 78 in Madras, Mysore, Hyderabad, Maharashtra, western UP and the Punjab. Maharashtra lost 8 lakh people, Madras nearly 35 lakh, Mysore nearly 20% of its population and UP over 12 lakh. Drought led to a countrywide famine on 1896 and 97 which affected over 9.6 crore of people, of whom nearly 45 lakh died. The famine of 1899 to 1900 followed quickly and caused widespread distress. In spite of official efforts to save lives through provision of famine relief, over 20 lakh people died. Apart from these major famines, many other local famines and scarcities occurred. William Digby, a British writer, has calculated that in all, over 28,825,000 people died during the famines from 1854 to 1901. Another famine in 1943 carried away nearly 3 million people in Bengal. These famines were and high losses of life in them indicate the extent to which poverty and starvation had taken root in India. Many English officials in India recognized the grim reality of India's poverty during 19th century. For example, Charles Eliot, a member of the Governor General's Council, remarked, "I do not hesitate to say that half of the agricultural population do not know from one year's end to another what is it to have a full meal." And William Hunter, the compiler of Imperial Gazetteer, conceded that 40 million of the people of India habitually go through life on insufficient food. The situation became still worse in 20th century. The quantity of food available to an Indian declined by as much as 29% in the 30 years between 1911 and 1941. There were many other indications of India's economic backwardness and impoverishment. Colin Clark, a famous authority on national income, has calculated that during the period of 1925 to 34, India and China had the lowest per capita incomes in the world. The income of an Englishman was 5 times that of an Indian. Similarly, average life expectancy of an Indian during 1930s was only 32 years, in spite of the tremendous progress that modern medical science and sanitation had made. In most of the West European and North American countries, the average age was already over 60 years. India's economic backwardness and poverty were not due to niggardliness of nature, they were man-made. The natural resources of India were abundant and capable of yielding. if properly utilized. A high degree of prosperity to the people, but as a result of foreign rule and exploitation and of a backward agrarian and industrial economic structure, in fact, as the total outcome of its historical and social development, India presented the paradox of a poor people living in rich country. The poverty of India was not a product of its geography or the lack of natural resources or some inherent defect in the character and capabilities of the people, nor it was a remnant of the Mughal period or the pre-British past. It was mainly a product of the history of the last 2 centuries. Before that, India was no more backward than the countries of Western Europe, nor were the differences in standards of living at the time very wide among the countries of the world. Precisely during the period the countries of the West developed and prospered, India was subjected to modern colonialism and was prevented from developing. All the developed countries of the today developed almost entirely over the period during which India was ruled by the Britain. Most of them doing so after 1850. Till 1750, all the differences in living standards were not wide between different parts of the world. It is interesting in this connection to note that the dates of beginning of the Industrial Revolution in Britain and the British conquest of Bengal virtually coincide. The basic fact is that the same social, political, and economic processes that produced industrial development and social and cultural progress in Britain also produced and then maintained economic underdevelopment and social and cultural backwardness in India. The reason for this is obvious. Britain subordinated the Indian economy to its own economy and determined the basic social trends in India according to her own needs. The result was stagnation of India's agriculture and industries, exploitation of its peasants and workers by the zamindars and landlords, princes, moneylenders, merchants, capitalists, and the foreign government and its officials, and the spread of poverty, disease, and semi starvation. Thank you, everyone. This was chapter number 8 of Modern India. The chapter's name was Economic Impact of the British Rule. We have finished the chapter, and thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in. All the best, and take care of yourselves. Thank you, everyone.